And it's not just going to be your team's increment that's put in the person's body, it's going to be the combination of the 7 teams' work that's going to be integrated and put into the person's body. So the exercise is, what type of work would you have to do during that iteration or sprint to turn your requirements into something with the other 6 teams that can be put in a person's body safely? One of the things you might want to do is a little design work. Another thing might be a little unit testing. But I'd like you to talk to your newly found friends and come up with other things that you might want to do to make sure it's safe to put in your best friend's body. Okay? Go ahead.
Você bebeu cerveja de vinho ali? Quem tomou cerveja, eu começo com cerveja. A cor que eu queria
Ok, todos sabem que o princípio de processos ágeis é o time box, time is over. A gente tem o Paulo e o Bruno com o microfone. Eu queria ouvir um pouco a opinião de vocês sobre o exercício. Quem quiser se manifestar?
Good morning. I would like to know if you want just my opinion or if my answer to the exercise. My opinion or both my opinion or just the answer for the exercise?
Both?
Yes. Opinion. I think it's quite interesting. It's challenging, and talking with my friend here, we quickly think of giving a small work for each team of researching which is possible to do to complete the task. Then just start. The 7 teams' goal is to define a prototype to do the insertion of the microorganism in your body, in the body person. Then when you finish, you will go to the next iteration.
So the no prototypes. So will be a software that goes directly into the...
Directly?
Yeah.
Okay, so directly the same idea. Each team has to develop the final product.
Okay.
Each one with an
In 2
idea.
weeks.
Each one with a different idea. Then you choose the idea separate.
And make them work together, right? Trabalharem juntos, os pedaços, né, os pieces.
Could be. I think they could work separately and together.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead a little with this because we're running a little short on time. You are right. It will be very difficult for you to do this. You will have to do analysis, design. You're going to have to look at the dependencies on the other teams. You're going to have to write software that will do work with the hardware. You're going to have to unit test it. You're going to have to acceptance test it or regression test it. You're going to have to test it in a rabbit to see if it kills the rabbit. You're going to have to integrate it with the work from the other 6 teams, and see if that kills the rabbit. You may even find a person in the street and see if it kills them. You have to document how it works. You have to write the warning things about it. And you'll, of course, do all this in 2 weeks. hard. So what we want you to do is not the issue. In 2 weeks, we expect something from you that does some part of this life-critical operation. You'll probably select a very small piece because that's a very hard thing to do. Scrum is a process for doing that. ALM, such as Visual Studio 2010, are tools that enable teams of people to do that. It is very hard to do. The challenge to you is that other companies around the world, other software developers around the world, are learning how to do this. So if in 2 weeks you come up with a prototype and a company in Madrid, Argentina, came up with a real thing that they could put in someone, you would have lost the competition. So this is the challenge to our industry, is to not only be able to build these incredibly sophisticated, critical products, but to be able to do it before others can. So this is your job and your challenge. Not only more quickly build products which are needed more quickly, but to build them so they are very competent, reliable, high-quality products. Because if you stick them in an airplane, if you stick them in a person's body, they better work. Wow, this is good. I mean, our job used to be okay. Now it's going to be very fun, right? So these are some of the things that were included in what a team has to do in that circumstance, one of 7 teams, to turn the requirements into something that is done. Now the reason it has to be done is, remember we said transparency is critical? If we are looking at this and you as the developers tell me, the customer, that this is done and it works, I will put it in my body. If you tell me, yeah, it's done, and it turns out you weren't really sure, and it kills me, you will not be in business very long. So suddenly, transparency is very, very important, as is quality. And in iterative incremental, or Scrum, we not only need it to be done, but then we're going to figure out what is the next thing we will build in the next iteration that will add to it. So if it doesn't work a little bit in the first iteration, then it'll not work a lot more after the second, third, fourth. So by the time you've done 10 iterations, if you have not been building high quality things, you will have something that is terrible. If you are very good developers and it's been very high quality throughout, you will have something that will make your company famous, successful, and will be a lot of fun to do. So the increment in an iterative incremental process, an empirical process, must be totally done. Done is an English word. What does it mean? It means that there is no work left to do for the increment or the product to be used. No work left to be done. So empiricism, very, very critical so that we can always do the best thing. We can control risk, we can create some dependability, predictability. Transparency, absolutely necessary so we know where we are as we build these complex products. In order to be empirical and transparent, the primary techniques that we have out there now are Scrum, which is one of the agile processes. Been around, this is the 3rd decade for Scrum, so it's been around for a long time. And we have Visual Studio 2010, which is the best example of application lifecycle management tools, so that you aren't doing this work manually, but instead you have something that helps you build these products with automation. So Scrum itself, it's an iterative incremental process. Rather than having an entire day where we try to control the temperature, we have a thermostat where we do a little work till we see where we are, a little more work where we see where we are. So it's very much like a thermostat. There are short iterations of work throughout the project, and at the end of every iteration we have an increment, so iterative incremental, that we inspect and make decisions about what is the next best thing to do. And that increment has to, just like the life critical product, be transparent. So Scrum does not make you agile. It is a tool with which you can become agile. So just because you can say sprint, Scrum Master, daily Scrum does not make you agile. It gives you different words. However, if you use Scrum to become an organization or team that can build complete increments at the end of every iteration, then you have a chance to be agile. Scrum iterations, so over and over we do 2 weeks, let's say 2-week iterations of work, and we leave behind a complete increment. Then we do another 2-week iteration of work, we add that increment in the next iteration to the first one. So we have 2 increments that work together, 3 increments, 4 increments, and at the end of the 7th iteration or sprint, our customer says, you know, I think we can use that to help a person control their blood pressure. Let's put it in their body. And it's a complete product at that point. Nothing left to do. Scrum itself is very, very small. The actual Scrum manual is 22 pages long. So it in itself does not tell you how to be agile. Instead, it's a framework, an iterative incremental framework, within which you will be able to build increments and find out how you do. So it will help you become agile. It's a tool. What Scrum does is it helps you control the risk of building complex projects by giving you frequent inspection of where you are. So by knowing where you are, your next step may be less risky than if you didn't know where you are. What else the Scrum gives you is predictability. By knowing where you are, your next step is more likely to lead you where you want, so you always know where you are. It gives you productivity. Scrum, rather than using teams of people that are told what to do, uses teams that figure out how to do the work themselves. And rather than having teams that are functional silos, like programmers, analysts, and testers, he has them all work together. Scrum teams tend to be twice as productive as regular software development. So not only are you building things and checking on them frequently, but we're doing it more rapidly. Application lifecycle management is the automation and the process for doing so. If we take a team of you, 8 or 9 people, and we give you some requirements and say you have 2 weeks to build those, often you don't know how to work together. You don't know what you should be doing, how you would do the analysis, how you would do the refactoring, how you would do the unit testing. Application lifecycle management tool gives you the process that you would do to turn a requirement into an increment that's done. It also gives you the tooling to build the things that you need to progress from one to the other, and it gives you reports on how you're doing against that. So Scrum is a framework within which you can do iterations that generate increments. ALM, such as Visual Studio 2010, is the tool that helps you automate and do that work. The two of them are very necessary together. So an ALM tool enforces the processes that need to be done to create an increment. It manages the relationships between the artifacts that you're building as you progress, and it provides reporting on the entire process. So process automation, linking and tracking of artifacts, and reporting. Without this, when we first started Agile in 2001, most organizations, most teams had a huge problem building an increment within an iteration. We started working with Microsoft in 2004, 2005, updating Visual Studio and putting in the types of tools, the type of process that a team could learn and rapidly build these increments so that their organization could be agile. So very, very critical item. So Scrum and ALM together improve the chances that the work that a development organization does will actually add up to increments that can be used in the marketplace, inserted in the body, used in an airplane successfully. They don't guarantee it because as you remember the Agile Manifesto, it says we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So